Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
The voice recorder clicked off just as my wife Erin's laughter echoed through our kitchen. I sat in my home office, staring at the small device I'd planted in her purse 3 days ago. The conversation I'd just heard made my blood run cold. "You're not his little coal mine princess anymore, Erin," came Maddie's voice through the speaker. "You deserve better than that dirty small-town life." I know, Erin had replied. "But it's complicated. The mine, the house, everything we built together." "Honey, you didn't build anything," Trish's voice cut in. My sister-in-law's tone was sharper than usual. "He got lucky with that mine inheritance. You've been carrying him socially for years." I rewound and played it again. 23 years of marriage, and this is what it had come to. My wife and her divorced girlfriends plotting my downfall in hushed tones over wine and cheese. The next morning, I watched Erin slip her wedding ring into her jewelry box instead of onto her finger. She thought I was still sleeping, but I'd been awake since 4, staring at the ceiling and planning. "Coffee's ready," I called from the kitchen, keeping my voice neutral. She appeared in her business suit, looking polished and professional. Everything about her screamed success now. The tailored clothes, the perfect makeup, the confident stride. When had she started looking at me like I was something she'd stepped in? "Thanks, but I'm grabbing something on the way to work." She kissed my cheek mechanically. "Don't wait up tonight. The girls and I are having dinner to celebrate Rox's promotion." Another lie. I'd already checked. Rox hadn't gotten any promotion. After Erin left, I sat in my truck outside our house, looking at the sprawling property that had been in my family for 3 generations. The mine had made us comfortable. Not rich, but comfortable. Apparently, that wasn't enough anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Trish. "We need to talk. Meet me at the Lantern at noon. Come alone." Interesting. My sister-in-law wanted a private conversation. The Lantern was Grey Ridge's only decent bar, a dimly lit place where miners and office workers could forget their troubles for a few hours. I found Trish in a corner booth, nervously shredding a napkin. "Thanks for coming," she said, sliding an envelope across the table. "I thought you should see these." Inside were printouts of text messages between Erin and someone named Jax. The content made my stomach churn. "Let's finish what we started last night. He'll never know," read one message from my wife. "Can't wait to get you alone again," came the reply. "How long?" I asked, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. 3 months, maybe 4. Jackson Price from her office. You know, the golden boy everyone talks about. I knew Jackson. Smooth talker, expensive suits, drove a BMW that probably cost more than most people's houses. Everything I wasn't. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked Trish. She looked uncomfortable. "Because someone needs to look out for you. Erin's changed, Mike. She's not the woman you married." That night, I installed security cameras around the mine property. Call it intuition, but I had a feeling this mess was about to get bigger. Sure enough, 2 days later, I arrived at the mine office to find windows smashed and equipment vandalized. The security footage showed a BMW pulling away just after midnight. Jackson Price had just made his first mistake. I waited 3 days before making my move. 3 days of watching Erin lie to my face about working late while she was actually at the Riverside Motel with her boyfriend. 3 days of listening to her complain about our stagnant life while she planned her escape. The Lantern was crowded that Friday night, perfect for what I had in mind. Jackson sat at the bar with 2 of his coworkers, regaling them with some story that had them laughing loudly. He looked so confident, so untouchable. I walked up and tapped him on the shoulder. "Jackson Price?" He turned, and I saw the moment of recognition in his eyes. "Mike, right? Erin's husband. Good to finally meet you." The audacity of this man, shaking my hand while sleeping with my wife, was almost impressive. "Funny thing," I said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Someone vandalized my mine property the other night. Smashed windows, destroyed equipment. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" His face went pale. "Of course not. Why would I?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the security footage. "That's your car, isn't it? The BMW?" The bar had gotten quieter, people sensing drama. Jackson's coworkers suddenly found their drinks very interesting. "There must be some mistake," Jackson stammered. "Oh, there's definitely been a mistake," I agreed. I picked up his whiskey and pretended to examine it. "You know, Jackson, I've heard you're quite the smooth operator, real ladies' man." Then I accidentally spilled the entire glass right into his lap. Jackson jumped up, whiskey dripping from his expensive pants. "What the hell? Oops, I said with mock concern. Sorry about that. Though from what I hear, you're used to things being wet and messy. The implication wasn't lost on anyone. Jackson's face turned red as he realized half the bar was watching him stand there with a wet crotch, being humiliated by a coal mine owner. You're going to pay for this, he hissed. Put it on my tab, I replied, along with the mine repairs. I walked out to scattered laughter and whispered conversations. Round one to me. The next morning, I found an envelope slipped under my front door. Inside were photos of Aaron and Jackson at the motel, along with printouts of my bank statements and business records. Someone else was playing this game, and they had access to information that should have been private. My phone rang. Unknown number. Enjoying the pictures? A distorted voice asked. Who is this? Someone who thinks you deserve to know the truth. Your wife and her boyfriend aren't just having an affair, Mike. They're planning to take everything you have. The line went dead. I stared at the photos, my hands shaking with rage. In one, Aaron was laughing at something Jackson had said. She looked happier than I'd seen her in months. That evening, Aaron came home with shopping bags from expensive stores. What's all this? I asked. Just some new clothes for work. I need to look professional. With what money? These stores aren't exactly budget-friendly. She gave me a cold look. I have my own income, Mike. I don't need to justify every purchase to you. When did we stop being a team, Aaron? When you stopped growing, she replied without hesitation. When you decided that running a small-town mine was enough for the rest of your life. This mine has supported us for over 20 years. Supported you, maybe. I've been suffocating. That night, I heard her on the phone in the bathroom, whispering sweet nothings to someone who definitely wasn't me. The war was officially on. I spent the weekend studying my enemies. Aaron had her divorced girlfriends, Maddie, Rox, and Trish. Jackson had his work buddies and social circle. They thought they were so clever, so modern, planning their little rebellion against the boring coal mine owner. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Monday morning, I called in a favor from an old friend who worked at the county inspector's office. Turns out, someone had filed an anonymous complaint about safety violations at my mine. The complaint included details that only someone with inside knowledge would know. Aaron had been feeding information to the inspectors, trying to shut down my business. That afternoon, I followed her to the Riverside Motel. I parked across the street and waited. Sure enough, Jackson's BMW pulled up 20 minutes later. I started my truck and followed him when he left 2 hours later. On a winding back road, I flashed my high beams and forced him to pull over. Jackson got out of his car, clearly agitated. Are you insane? You could have caused an accident. Accidents happen, I said, getting out of my truck with a tire iron in my hand. Like the accident that happened to my mine property. Look, Mike, I don't know what you think you know, but I know you're sleeping with my wife. I know you vandalized my property. And I know you're planning something bigger. I walked around his BMW, admiring the paint job. Beautiful car, must have cost a fortune. Don't even think about it. I dragged the tire iron along the side of the car, leaving a deep scratch. Oops, another accident. Jackson lunged at me, but I was ready. I sidestepped and let him stumble past me into a puddle. Stay away from my wife, Jackson, and stay away from my mine. This is your only warning. I got back in my truck and drove away, leaving him standing in the rain next to his scratched BMW. The next day, Trish called me again. We need to talk, she said. I have more information. We met at a diner outside town. Trish looked nervous, constantly checking over her shoulder. They're planning something big, she said. Aaron, Maddie, and Rox. They think they can force you into a divorce settlement that leaves you with nothing. How? They've been documenting everything. Your temper, your drinking, your confrontations with Jackson. They're building a case that you're unstable and dangerous, and you're helping them? Trish looked hurt. I'm helping you. Erin is my sister, but what she's doing is wrong. You don't deserve this. I studied her face, looking for deception. Trish had always been the quiet sister, overshadowed by Erin's confidence and ambition. Maybe she really was trying to help. What else do you know? Jackson owes money to some dangerous people, gambling debts. He needs cash fast, and Erin thinks you're her ticket to a better life. Interesting. A desperate man makes mistakes. That night, I did some research on Jackson Price, social media, public records, professional networks. The picture that emerged was of a man living beyond his means, keeping up appearances while drowning in debt. I also learned about his Friday night poker games at an underground club downtown. Time to make a new friend. The pit wasn't the kind of place you'd find in a tourist guide. Located in the basement of an abandoned warehouse, it catered to men who needed to hit something or be hit by something. The poker games were just a side business. I found Jackson's bookie without much trouble. Tony Marcelli was a small-time operator who thought he was bigger than he was. The kind of man who wore gold chains and talked tough but folded under real pressure. "You're Mike, right?" Tony said when I introduced myself. "I heard about you. Coal mine owner." "That's right. I hear Jackson Price owes you money." Tony's expression darkened. "What's it to you?" "Let's just say Jackson and I have mutual interests." I slid an envelope across the table. Inside was $5,000 in cash. "What's this for?" "Information. How much does Jackson owe you?" Tony counted the money quickly. 15 grand plus interest. He's been dodging my calls for 2 weeks. What happens if he doesn't pay? Bad things. Very bad things. Huh. Perfect. The next Friday, I watched Jackson lose another 2,000 at Tony's poker table. He was sweating, desperate, making bad decisions. When he finally left, I followed him to his car. "Rough night?" I asked, stepping out of the shadows. Jackson spun around, his face pale. "What are you doing here?" "Watching you dig your own grave. 15,000 to Tony, plus whatever you owe the casino downtown. That's a lot of debt for a man with a government salary." "How do you—" "I know lots of things, Jackson. I know you're planning to solve your money problems by destroying my marriage. I know you think my wife is your ticket to Easy Street." Jackson tried to bluff. "You're paranoid. Erin and I are just friends." I showed him one of the motel photos. "Friends don't do this." His shoulders sagged in defeat. "What do you want?" "I want you to disappear. Leave town. Leave your job. Leave my wife alone." "I can't just leave. I have obligations. You have debts. Big difference." I got closer, lowering my voice. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to break things off with Erin. You're going to tell her you're not interested in her little divorce scheme. And you're going to find another way to solve your money problems. And if I don't, then I tell Tony where you live. I tell your boss about your gambling. I tell your ex-wife about the affair so she can use it in your custody battle." Jackson's face went white. "You wouldn't." "Huh, try me." Huh. I walked away, leaving him standing in the parking lot, with his problems multiplying by the minute. But Jackson was more desperate than I'd realized. Instead of backing down, he doubled down. The next morning, I woke up to find my mine office on fire. The fire department said it was arson. Gasoline poured through the broken windows. Professional job. My security cameras had been spray-painted black, but I had backup systems Jackson didn't know about. The footage was crystal clear. Jackson Price and 2 men I didn't recognize, torching my office at 3 in the morning. I sat in the ashes of my workplace, holding a tablet with the evidence, and felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't just about an affair anymore. This was war. My phone rang. "Erin." "Mike, I just heard about the fire. Are you okay?" "Concerned about your investment?" I asked. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just wondering why you suddenly care about the mine." "It's our livelihood, Mike. Of course I care." Such a good actress. I almost believed her. That afternoon, I drove to Jackson's workplace, a sleek government building downtown where he worked as a logistics coordinator. I waited in the parking lot until quitting time, then followed him to a coffee shop where he met with Erin. I couldn't hear their conversation, but their body language told the story. Jackson was agitated, gesturing wildly. Erin was trying to calm him down. When she reached across the table to take his hand, I took pictures. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check your email." The email contained audio files, recordings of conversations between Erin and her divorced girlfriends. Someone had been very busy. "The fire should scare him enough to agree to a settlement," came Erin's voice through my headphones. "And if it doesn't," asked Maddie, "then Jackson escalates. Mike's not as tough as he pretends to be." "What about the daughter?" Rox's voice. "Sam's 18. She can choose who she wants to live with. She already thinks her father is stuck in the past. My own daughter, turned against me by her mother's poison." The recordings went on for an hour. Plans to destroy my reputation, my business, my relationships. They'd thought of everything, except they'd underestimated how far I was willing to go. That evening, I called a meeting with my mine workers, 12 loyal men who'd been with me for years. I showed them the footage of Jackson burning our office. "This is the man who destroyed our workplace," I told them. "This is the man who's trying to shut down the mine permanently." Big Joe, my foreman and an ex-boxer, cracked his knuckles. "What do you want us to do about it, boss?" "Nothing illegal. But if Mr. Price happens to find himself in uncomfortable situations around town, well, that's just bad luck." The men smiled grimly.
A couple's spa. You took her to the place we go.
It was a birthday gift. She's a friend. Friends don't get $500 couples massage.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
They understood. The next day, Jackson's car wouldn't start. Sugar in the gas tank. His credit cards were mysteriously declined at restaurants. His gym membership was canceled due to suspicious activity. Small things, annoying things, things that made his life just a little bit harder every day. But Jackson was stupider than I'd given him credit for. Instead of taking the hint, he went to the police. "I want to file harassment charges against Mike Davidson," he told the desk sergeant. Unfortunately for Jackson, the desk sergeant was Pete Morrison, whose brother worked at my mine. "Harassment?" Pete asked mildly. "What kind of harassment?" "He's stalking me, vandalizing my property, threatening me." "You have proof of these threats?" Jackson hesitated. "Well, not exactly threats, but in this vandalism, you have evidence? My car was sabotaged." "Did you see him do it?" "No, but..." "So you're filing charges based on suspicions and hurt feelings?" Jackson left the police station frustrated and empty-handed. That night, I received another anonymous call. "You're playing with fire," the distorted voice said. "Who is this?" "Someone who's been watching this whole mess unfold. You think you're winning, but you're walking into a trap." "What trap?" "Your wife isn't the mastermind, Mike. She's just a pawn. The real enemy is closer than you think." The line went dead, leaving me with more questions than answers. The trap revealed itself 3 days later. I came home to find Aaron packing suitcases in our bedroom. "Going somewhere?" I asked. "I'm leaving, Mike. This marriage is over." "Just like that?" "It's been over for months. We both know it." She handed me divorce papers. "My lawyer says this is generous, considering your recent behavior." I scanned the documents. She wanted the house, half the mine profits, and alimony. In return, I'd get to keep the mine itself and my debts. "Generous," I repeated. "And what recent behavior would that be?" "The harassment, the stalking, the threats. Jackson has documented everything. Jackson's a liar and a criminal. He's a good man who tried to help me realize what my life could be." I laughed, a bitter sound. "A good man who owes $15,000 to a bookie and burned down my office?" Erin's confidence wavered slightly. "That's ridiculous." I showed her the security footage on my phone. Her face went pale as she watched her boyfriend commit arson. "This doesn't change anything," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "It changes everything. Your boyfriend is a criminal, Erin. He's using you to solve his money problems." "You're lying." I played one of the audio recordings Trish had given me. Jackson talking to someone about bleeding the coal mine owner dry. Erin sat down heavily on the bed. "Where did you get these?" "Does it matter? What matters is that you've been played. Jackson doesn't love you. He loves what he thinks you can get him." For a moment, I saw the woman I'd married 23 years ago. Vulnerable, uncertain, human. Then Trish walked into the room. "Don't listen to him, Erin," she said. "He's desperate. He'll say anything to keep you from leaving." I stared at my sister-in-law. Something in her tone, her timing, her presence in our bedroom during a private moment struck me as wrong. "How did you know she was packing?" I asked. "I called her," Trish said quickly. "She needed support." But Erin looked confused. "I didn't tell you I was packing." The pieces clicked into place. The anonymous tips, the inside information, the convenient timing of every revelation. Trish hadn't been helping me. She'd been orchestrating everything. "You," I said, pointing at Trish. "You've been playing both sides." Trish's mask slipped for just a moment, and I saw something ugly underneath. Jealousy, resentment, obsession. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. "You set up the affair. You encouraged Erin to leave me. You gave me information to make me look paranoid and controlling. You wanted us to destroy each other. That's insane." But Erin was looking at her sister with new eyes. "You were the one who introduced me to Jackson at that work party. You kept pushing me to explore my options. I was trying to help you. Help me, or help yourself, I asked. How long have you wanted what your sister had, Trish? The truth hung in the air between us. Trish had been in love with me for years, jealous of her sister's marriage, her success, her happiness. She'd methodically destroyed everything Erin had built, thinking she could step into her place. You're both crazy, Trish said, but she was backing toward the door. The anonymous calls, the recordings, the photos, that was all you, I continued. You wanted me to catch Erin cheating, so I'd turn to you for comfort. Trish's face crumpled. You don't understand. I've loved you since before you married her. I've watched her take you for granted, treat you badly, while I would have given you everything. Erin stared at her sister in horror. You destroyed my marriage because you wanted my husband? Your marriage was already broken. I just helped it along. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Get out, Erin said quietly. Erin, please, get out, my wife screamed. Trish fled, leaving us alone with the wreckage of our lives. Erin and I sat in silence for a long time after Trish left. The divorce papers lay scattered on the floor between us. Did you know? She finally asked. About Trish? I suspected something was off, but not this. She's been poisoning me against you for months. Every complaint, every doubt, she fed them all. I wanted to feel vindicated, but mostly I felt tired. What about Jackson? Erin's face hardened. What about him? Do you love him? She considered the question seriously. I thought I did. But looking back, every romantic gesture, every sweet word, Trish was there, encouraging me, telling me I deserved better. And now I don't know what's real anymore. I showed her the recordings of Jackson talking about using her for money. Her face went through a range of emotions, hurt, anger, embarrassment. I've been such a fool, she whispered. We both have, but knowing the truth didn't magically fix everything. The affair had happened. The betrayal was real, even if it had been orchestrated. The things we'd said to each other couldn't be unsaid. What do we do now? Erin asked. First, we deal with Jackson. I called Tony Marcelli. Remember that favor you owe me? I'm ready to collect. That evening, Jackson received a visit from Tony and two of his associates. They had a very direct conversation about overdue debts and the consequences of not paying them. Jackson left town the next morning, leaving behind his job, his apartment, and his dreams of easy money. But I wasn't done with him yet. I'd kept copies of everything, the arson footage, the recordings, the evidence of his gambling debts and criminal associations. I sent it all to his ex-wife's lawyer, along with a note about how it might affect their custody arrangement. Jackson's life was effectively over. He'd have to start from scratch somewhere else, and he'd do it knowing that I could reach him anywhere if he ever tried to come back. As for Trish, her own obsession became her downfall. She started calling me constantly, showing up at the mine, at my house, at the bar. She'd convinced herself that with Erin out of the picture, we could be together. I recorded every conversation, documented every unwanted visit. When she broke into our house one night, I had her arrested. The restraining order was just the beginning. I made sure everyone in town knew what she'd done, how she'd manipulated her own sister, destroyed a marriage, and stalked a married man. In a small town like Gray Ridge, reputation is everything. Trish became a pariah overnight. 3 weeks after Jackson fled town, I got a call from Pete Morrison at the police station. Mike, you need to get down here. We've got a situation. I found Erin in the lobby, her face pale and shaken. What happened? Trish, she said. She's been arrested for stalking, harassment, and breaking into the mine office. Pete filled me in. Trish had been caught on security cameras trying to plant evidence in my office. Fake documents that would have implicated me in insurance fraud. She's completely lost it, Pete said. Keeps talking about how you belong together, how she's going to prove Erin is the real villain. I looked at my wife. Despite everything that had happened between us, I felt protective of her. What do you need from me? I asked Pete. Testimony, documentation. Help us build a case that'll keep her away from both of you permanently. That night, Erin and I had our first real conversation in months. I keep thinking about what she said, Erin told me, about our marriage being broken already. Was it? I don't know. Maybe. I felt like I was suffocating, like nothing I did mattered. But looking back, every time I started to feel better about us, Trish would say something to make me doubt again. She was very good at it. I hurt you, Mike. The affair, the things I said, Trish may have encouraged me, but I made the choices. I appreciated her honesty. We both made choices. I could have tried harder to understand what you needed. Where does that leave us? It was a fair question. The trust was broken, maybe irreparably. But the love, that was harder to kill. I don't know, I admitted. But I know I don't want to lose you to someone else's poison. We agreed to try counseling, to see if we could rebuild what Trish had helped us tear down. The trial was a media circus for Grey Ridge. A small town doesn't get much excitement, and the story of the jealous sister who destroyed a marriage had everyone talking. Trish's lawyer tried to paint her as a woman driven to desperation by unrequited love, but the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the break-ins, the manipulation, it all painted a picture of someone who'd systematically destroyed other people's lives for her own selfish desires. She was sentenced to 2 years in prison and a permanent restraining order. As for the divorced girlfriends who'd encouraged Aaron's affair, they found themselves suddenly unwelcome in polite society. Maddie lost her job when her own affair with her boss came to light. Rox's ex-husband used the recordings in their custody battle, and she lost visitation rights with her children. Funny how quickly the empowerment movement collapsed when the consequences arrived. 6 months later, Aaron moved back home. It wasn't a fairy tale reconciliation. We had separate bedrooms and a long list of issues to work through. But it was a start. The mine was rebuilt, stronger than before. The insurance payout and the publicity had actually brought in new business. Sometimes destruction leads to better construction. Jackson never came back to Grey Ridge, but I heard through Tony that he'd found work as a night security guard in another state. A significant step down from his previous life, but that's what happens when you burn bridges, literally and figuratively. Trish served 18 months of her sentence. When she got out, she moved across the country. The restraining order was still in effect, but I doubted we'd see her again. Grey Ridge held nothing but bad memories for her now. One evening, as I sat on my porch watching the sunset over the mine, Erin joined me with 2 cups of coffee. "Any regrets?" she asked. "About which part?" "The revenge. The way you handled Jackson and Trish." I considered the question. No. They made their choices, and I made mine. Actions have consequences. Even for us? Especially for us. We sat in comfortable silence, 2 people who'd been through hell and were slowly finding their way back to each other. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Mike Davidson?" "Yes. This is Sarah Mitchell from Channel 7 News. We're doing a story about workplace harassment and manipulation. Would you be willing to share your experience?" I looked at Aaron, who shrugged. "Why not?" The interview aired 2 weeks later. The story of how one woman's jealousy and manipulation had destroyed multiple lives resonated with viewers. I got calls from other men who'd experienced similar situations, women who'd been manipulated by jealous friends or relatives, and business owners who'd dealt with vindictive employees. It seemed our little drama had touched on something universal: the damage that can be done by people who can't accept that they can't have what others have. A year after the trial, I stood in the Grey Ridge Town Hall, addressing a packed room. The occasion was the annual Business Awards dinner, and I'd been asked to speak about resilience and recovery. 12 months ago, I began. I thought my life was over. My marriage was falling apart. My business was under attack, and I didn't know who I could trust. I scanned the crowd, seeing familiar faces, some supportive, others curious, a few still suspicious. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you can be the most dangerous. Not because they hate you, but because they want what you have so badly that they'll destroy it, rather than let you keep it. I spotted Pete Morrison in the audience, nodding approvingly. But I also learned that the truth has a way of coming out, if you're patient enough to let it. That justice might be slow, but it's usually thorough. And that sometimes, the best revenge is simply refusing to let other people's poison kill what you've built. The applause was genuine, warm. These were my people, my community, and they'd watched me navigate the storm. After the dinner, Aaron and I walked home through the quiet streets of Grey Ridge. Our relationship wasn't perfect. We were still working through trust issues and resentment, but it was honest now, in a way it hadn't been before. "Good speech," she said. "Thanks. Think it helped anyone?" "It helped me." We reached our house, the same sprawling property where this whole mess had started. But it felt different now, cleaner, somehow. The secrets were gone, the lies exposed, the manipulators banished. "Mike," Aaron said as we reached the front door, "I want you to know something." "What's that?" "If someone tries to come between us again, they'll have to deal with both of us. I won't be fooled twice." I believed her. We'd both learned hard lessons about trust, loyalty, and the price of taking each other for granted. As I locked the door behind us, I reflected on the past year. Jackson was gone, his life in ruins. Trish was in exile, her reputation destroyed. The divorced girlfriends had scattered, their little empowerment club disbanded. And me, I was still here, still standing, still married to the woman I'd fallen in love with 24 years ago. We were different now, scarred but stronger, wiser but warier. The coal mine hummed in the distance, a constant reminder of where I'd come from and what I'd fought to protect. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats, new people who might try to take what wasn't theirs. But tonight, I was home, with my wife, in the house we'd built together. And anyone who wanted to change that would have to go through both of us. The war was over. I'd won. Not through violence or illegal schemes, but through patience, planning, and the simple refusal to let other people's jealousy and greed destroy what I'd spent a lifetime building. Nah,